there's a difference between emotional exhaustion and emotional avoidance. While they can overlap each other, I think it's very important for you to understand the two so you can understand a little bit deeper as to why you feel tired all the time. So let's jump into that right now. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. We are walking into the summer in the very near future, and I am here for it. 6 months from now, it's Christmas. Yep, I'm a 6-month Christmas kind of gal. And I hope that you guys' year is going by okay. I know a lot of you who are my clients, you're seeing ebbs and flows, and I think that that's really important for people to understand that while you're on this growth journey, you're not supposed to go, and you won't go just completely, oh my God, I'm amazing now. It's not going to happen. And it's what I tell all of my clients is the tools are useless if you're not put in a position to use them. So you have to be put in a position to use those tools, because if you're not using them, the tools are irrelevant. So by all means, I know some of you are my new clients, so welcome aboard. If that is your jam and you're like, ooh, I need to really get into my stuff, you can always book sessions with me. And those notes are always in the description, along with the Patreon. And keep in mind that the Patreon always provides you a complement to this podcast where it gives you a starting point to go deeper with your personal issue. That's also in the show notes. And also the free 10-page workbook. Everything is directly in the show notes, and you can find all of that below. And it's helpful. I think it's very helpful because you can get a bunch of free stuff and you can get the worksheet. So let's jump into it, because emotional exhaustion and emotional avoidance, they will mimic each other. And we're going to go into what that difference is. And you might be like, oh my God, this is completely me. And it might be completely you. It's most of us. I know I went through a lot of this, and I think to some level you have to manage so you don't continue this. Because again, like I was saying, you don't just get one answer and you're like, boom, I'm never going to do that again. Or I set that boundary, boom, I got this under my belt. You don't. So when you understand what it is that you're dealing with, and as I go through it, and this is all based in science, by the way, it's not opinion based, it's science based, it's neuroscience, it's all of that, psychology. And these are important factors. When you understand, you get clarity in where you need to focus. This is what I tell everybody. I know I've said it here. I am always going to tell you it is you. It is always you. And what do I mean by that? And why is that a good thing? If it's everybody else, then everybody else has power over you. If it's your past, if it's this, if it's the boss, if it's the spouse, if it's the narcissist neighbor, all of those people are going to exist. I mean, there's no scenario where you just walk around life and it's only going to be people that you vibe with. I mean, that's unrealistic. However, it's the power that they have over you. If you're holding on to your ego and you're saying, oh my God, I don't want to just forgive it because then I'm permitting it. But remember, you're the one that's losing sleep at 3 a.m. They are not. So the more you point fingers at everybody else, and we know trauma isn't asked for. It's not like you're like, ooh, give me trauma. No, but you're here today. And when you start evaluating, and the reason that's important, well, it's important for all of the podcasts, that what I just said is important for it all, but it's definitely important for today so you can understand why you're overextending yourself. And it's something that you really need to have some clarity on. So what I always am going to do, whether you're a personal client, whether you're on the podcast, whether you're on my short form, whether you're on my YouTube, I'm always going to give you the hard hitter. It's great to be motivational. It's great to have those affirmations, but are you executing them? And the reason it's always you is that puts power completely in your hands. Scary. It can be scary. It can be hard. Still 100% in your hands. So let's go into it. What is emotional exhaustion? What is it really? Well, emotional exhaustion is not just about being tired. It's a chronic depletion of your emotional energy. Now that's due to overextending yourself. It's overfunctioning, because a lot of times we are overfunctioning. We got to do it all. We are just going to do it. Meanwhile, your adrenal glands are like, what is going on here? What is going on here? So it's going to disperse all of these crazy stress hormones where you're like, look at me, proving myself that I'm overfunctioning. Which I've even said a lot of times. I'm here in the US, and I know a lot of you actually listen to this in other countries. And we've talked personally where it's so different in many places. And here in this country where I live, it's though people put this medal on I worked so hard, 97 hours this week. Yes, but working 97 hours this week, while every random now and again, you're going to have to work a little bit more. It shouldn't be 97 hours unless you absolutely have to financially. And even then we have to look for a way to balance that. But it's crazy to think, because I know in other countries, they have the siestas. They do the 4-day work weeks. They are given a month's vacation from the time they walk in the door or more. They believe in mental health. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to overfunction, out of survival, but also to prove a worth. These are for the people who heard, don't be lazy. What are you doing? There's got to be something around here that you can do. What? You've been sitting down for 2 hours. What the hell are you doing? So then you're walking around and you're like, okay, well, if I rest, I'm lazy. You're not. You have to have balance. And you will get emotionally exhausted if you're overextending yourself. Saying yes to this, saying yes to that. Sure, yeah, because now you're in people pleasing. Oh, emotional exhaustion is going to be right at the top for my people pleasers. Absolutely. Make sure you go back to that podcast I did on it. Entire episode on people pleasing, why it happens, how you can break free from it. I think it'll be very beneficial for you. And if you're over-functioning or you're over-feeling, yes, there's something called over-feeling. Now, we'll get that a lot. If you're my obsessive thinkers like myself, you will get that more. And so you have to be even more aware of it, because you want to lean into your struggles, right? You want to lean into your OCD. You want to lean into your ADHD. You want to lean into the anxiety to where you understand that you can do it. You're just going to need to focus in certain areas a little bit more. That's different than being emotionally exhausted from saying, yes, 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 yes. And then there you are, you're just yesing yourself to death, and you just worked all week and you're doing these things and you sat down to watch a new Netflix show, and next thing you know, you feel guilty and you're just drained. There's real life causes to that. That constant caregiving or being the emotional container for others. So important. You cannot be the emotional container for everybody around you. And I know for a fact, many of you listening to this right now have been the emotional container, or you have allowed yourself to put your worth in being that caregiver. Listen, sometimes it's going to be what it's going to be. I know when my mom was ill and she had a stroke, she was paralyzed on her left side. And I was, I told you, I went to school like 82 days in my 8th grade year. 8th grade year, because I was at home with mom. Dad was off doing whatever dad was doing, working at the bar and all that stuff. So I was a caregiver for her. That also built a level of resentment, not of her fault. It wasn't her fault, but I just want to do kid things, right? I don't want to take care of somebody. I want to do kid things. So of course, fast forward ahead, she passes away March 25th that year, 41 years ago, 40 years ago this past year. And it's just been one of those things that you go, oh my God, I could have done this. Why did I do this? Why did I feel that way? Because you're human. If you are going to sit there and keep saying coulda, shoulda, woulda, you're going to not only be emotionally exhausted, you are going to go through emotional avoidance. So if you find yourself caregiving, and of course, be rational. I don't mean to young children. Of course not. I'm talking about where you have decided and somebody put this rule on you and the role on you that you are the glue that holds the family together. What the hell is that? No, you don't have to. You don't have to. This is going to exhaust you, and then you're going to get mad at everybody around you. Again, I'm going to put it on you. Let's go back to you. No is a powerful word. Not managing their feelings is where you're going to struggle, because you're going to allow yourself to kind of go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I don't want them to be upset, or it's going to be you or them at some point. And then when you set that boundary, just like anybody else, I think I've used this example before. If in my house, the 6'4" white fences, the privacy fence, I have one around my backyard because of my pool. Let's say, and I've done this before, let's say I've decided I want that fence in the front yard, but I don't want an entrance in the front yard. Like, you can't get in. So you park, you got to get out of your car and you got to walk around back and go all the way to the back of the yard to then enter my house. So when you first come here, you're gonna be like, what the hell is this dumb thing? This is the stupidest layout I've ever seen in my life. You're going to be annoyed with it. You're going to be like, what the hell is happening? You might even come in and be like, what kind of a stupid ass design is that? Now, first of all, I'm going to check you on it from the get. I'll be like, well, I understand it's difficult for you to understand, but this works for me, period. So now that person comes back again, a week or two later, still like, this is so stupid. They don't say it to me, but they're like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Well, you know what? 4 or 5 months later, they're not even going to think about how dumb it is. They're just going to park, get out of the car, go to the back, and it's not going to be anything. Because you have said to them, this is how it is. This is my boundary. So I know it's a little different than saying it's a boundary, but my boundary is I'm not going to discuss my decision with you on why I wanted this design. No matter how stupid it looks to you, it's not about you. But that's the part that you're going to stop being emotionally exhausted because you are going to level set these boundaries. I will help you on a personal level set these boundaries. I am a boundary master. And setting them means also respecting them for other people. You have to be able to respect other people's boundaries the same way you want people to respect yours, regardless of how you feel about them. So that is the other side of it. It's real easy to throw up boundaries and be like, F it all. This is my boundary, like it or not. But just remember that also pertains to you. Because sometimes you get real caught up in, hey, this is my, empowerment moment. Part of being empowered is realizing that you have to also appreciate and respect other people's boundaries, even if you hate them and even if they don't make sense to you. If you have high empathy, you're not going to have many boundaries. It's great to be empathetic. I don't want you to walk around as a sociopath or a psychopath. Valid. I don't think that would benefit you or anybody else around you. But having high empathy starts to drift a little bit into manipulation, just a little bit. And I'll tell you why. Because then you're going to go, well, I just can't help it. I'm just empathetic. Yeah, I hear you. But now you're going to put yourself out. You're going to overextend yourself, which we talked about. And then you're going to get resentful because you're like, I don't understand. I'm always doing this selection and choice. You're doing that by choice. So when you're over empathetic, you're also trying to fix. You're also trying to save in many ways because you don't want somebody, in theory, you have the best intention, right? In theory, you're going, I don't want them to struggle. Always remember you cannot and should not prevent anybody else's consequences. They're not going to learn any lessons that way. So let's say you decide you're going to take care of everybody around you. You don't want them to struggle. Your high empathy is there. You're over functioning. You're doing the things. You're like, yes, these people are not going to experience pain. Then you walk outside and a plane falls on top of your head. And as the plane falls on top of your head, now you're not here anymore. So now those people have zero tools. So you're gone and they're left to be like, oh my God, what do I do? Because you've always come in on your white horse, drew your sword, and you're saving the day. You're not doing them favors. You're not. Because you will keep yourself emotionally exhausted. Now, you might also suppress your emotions. All day long, you're suppressing them. No, I don't want you to walk around just yelling at everybody. Of course not. But when you're suppressing your emotions, you're going to crash at night. Those emotions have to go somewhere. Like they have to go somewhere. They're not just going to disappear because you're not dealing with them. That's where you get the 3 a.m. wake up calls with your anxiety. That's where you're like, oh my God, I'm having such a great day. I'm sitting on the beach and then boom, you get hit by your anxiety attack. And you're like, why the hell do I have this? Because you've suppressed your emotions and they're not going anywhere. They're not. And another thing that you do, of course, because we have to, you're going to perform normalcy even when your internal world is chaotic. So yes, your internal world can't be dumped on everybody else. That's valid. Just remember, you have to process them. They are your responsibility, but don't ignore them either. Your limbic system, so this is a little science, your limbic system, this is what houses your amygdala. When that goes into overdrive, it definitely goes into overdrive when you are emotionally taxed. Think about the fact and think about a moment that you were like, oh my God, I am just checked out. I am emotionally drained. Well, guess what's happening? Your brain is going in overdrive and your cortisol is going to stay elevated. Now that's going to hamper something. That's going to impair your prefrontal cortex. And what is that responsible for? Your reactive, you're definitely going to be reactive. You're going to be angry. You're going to be kirking out on everybody. You're going to feel foggy brained and you're going to feel depleted. And you could be like, oh my God, let me go to sleep. I'm so tired. Now, of course, go to your doctor. Make sure that there isn't like a medical issue, another medical issue causing that. Of course, always get that examined. However, when you are emotionally exhausted, rest is not going to help you. It's going to seem like it doesn't help at all. You're going to get up and you're going to say, oh my God, why do I feel like I can't get rest? Well, you're doing that to yourself. You're doing that to yourself. And when you're doing that to yourself, you have to say, what is it? What survival am I in that is creating a problem for me? What survival am I in that I am focused so hard on performing? And why am I doing it? So when you figure out why you're doing it, that's going to be an amazing starting point for you to say, whoa, let me go back in time. Yes, you always think the issue is now. You always think, oh, the anxiety is now. All of these things are now. This is what you feel, that it's just whatever it is starting now. It isn't. So you might have a marital issue, but we're going to talk about kindergarten. And you're going to be like, what the hell? How does kindergarten have anything to do with me? How does that have anything to do with now? And it has everything to do with now. You have been living in survival for so long, and now you're even avoiding more than you even thought that you ever could. And that's where emotional avoidance comes into play. And why is it not the same? Because that's very, very important. Well, avoidance looks like calm on the outside, like you're chilling. You're like, it's great on the outside. But oh my goodness, that's disconnection, not peace. Now, I want to get clear on something. I have an entire podcast on detachment. Detachment and disconnection are two very different things. Living in detachment is the key to so much peace and so much joy in your life. To live detached, totally different than disconnected. So if you haven't heard that podcast yet, you might want to go back and listen to it. It'll really help you understand the benefits of living detached. So if you're disconnected, that's how you're avoiding. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this. I do not want to deal with this. And even if you're avoiding conflict, which, as a lot of people avoid conflict, you don't go head on into it. Well, you're avoiding it. I mean, that's the whole concept of avoidance. That doesn't go anywhere. Your feelings about it doesn't go anywhere. So the emotional avoidance just lingers and lingers and lingers. So it's not, peace. So what are some signs of emotional avoidance? Numbness and feeling blank. You ever say to yourself, ugh, I don't even know how I feel. I just kind of feel numb. I feel numb. This doesn't mean that you're just avoiding paying the bills. This means that you're avoiding going deep. You're avoiding taking the responsibility of your own happiness, of setting the boundaries, of deciding who has roles in your life, deciding not to fall in love with hope. Of course, it comes with effort. Nobody says you're just going to wake up and then one day all of that's going to be gone. That's not what I'm saying. But however, you do have to wake up and you have to say, am I willing to maybe disconnect? Disconnect in this area is good. Disconnect from people or things that are not benefiting my best and highest good. I think I even said that to you guys last week or a couple weeks ago. You say you're ready to heal. You say you're ready to let them. You say you're ready to do the things. You're reading the affirmations. You're listening to podcasts. You're showing up to events. You're doing the things. But until you literally embrace the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable, you're not supposed to know, you have to walk into the unknown, you're going to piss a hell of a lot of people off, and that means you're going to have to put yourself as a priority. So you can do the things and it looks cool. And maybe that's what you need to get inspired. But if you're just waiting one day for it to click, you will be emotionally avoidant. And then of course, that's going to cause emotional exhaustion. You're just going to feel blank. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is just me. I'm just stuck. If you're chronically keeping yourself busy, this is what I was telling you before. If you're chronically keeping yourself busy or you're fine, you're avoiding your feelings. You're avoiding your feelings. That's why you scroll. My God, I hate social media. I mean, I hate scrolling social media. I don't hate social media as a whole. It's how a lot of you find me. I don't like scrolling. I do not scroll. I'll go on with intention. I'll look up a pattern. I'll look up a review, typically on YouTube. I have a few things saved on TikTok and Reels, but I hardly go on to scroll. That is avoidance. You are avoiding your feelings because it is a dopamine hit. So when you have dopamine and you're seeking the next best thing, you don't have to deal with yourself. You don't have to deal with yourself. But until you're ready to face yourself, nothing else is going to matter. Nothing else. And guess what? You don't need finances for that. You don't need finances. You don't need anything special. You have to be willing to feel your feelings. You have to be willing to sit down. You have to be willing to say, this is uncomfortable. And you have to have radical acceptance, which is my most favorite thing on this entire planet, is radical acceptance. People are like, it's not that easy. Is it easier to stay stuck? Is it easier to stay miserable? Are you willing, it's a willing thing. Are you willing to go in and just say, shit is as it is. I'm going to have to get on board, or I can make changes. I mean, that's it. If you're deflecting every emotion with logic, sarcasm, you're going to shut down. So if you're deflecting your emotion, it's similar to of saying, well, this relationship isn't all bad. Well, yes, of course, nothing is all bad. However, you can't avoid looking at the reality of life and how it is not as you want it to be, because you will be avoidant. You are avoiding checking in with yourself. You're avoiding accepting things as they are. If you're feeling bored or if you're apathetic towards things that you once cared about, now, yes, of course, depression can come into this. And depression can also be increased by the fact that you have emotional exhaustion and emotionally avoidant behaviors. Yes, it can make it worse. So no, it's not just about, oh my God, I'm depressed. I can't get up and do it. This is, I am so bored. I'm bored. I don't even feel like doing that anymore. I guess you are. I guess you are bored. You got no energy. You have zero energy. You have depleted everything. You've avoided everything. So how the hell would you have energy to do anything? And until, like I said, until you're ready to say, I matter, you're going to have to say no to a hell of a lot more shit than you say yes to. If you feel disgusted by the fact of slowing down, yeah, there are people who are like, oh my God, I can't do that. Ooh, that's not your voice. That's somebody else's voice you adopted. And that's your perfectionism. If your perfectionism's creeping in, and then if you also find yourself, and you might not even know that you're doing this, but it's important to know. If you find yourself judging others, like, oh my God, all they do is just sit around the house. Yeah, it's called relaxation. Now listen, some people aren't going to be motivated. I hate that word. Not going to be inspired to do things, and they might be struggling with something. And yeah, you only have to tolerate so much. I mean, I get it. You don't want to be like, well, great, everybody's just resting in the house. Well, no, of course not. You know, there's got to be a level of balance. Just be careful of not thinking that, you know, just because they're resting is lazy, because it isn't. It has to come with life in general. So here's some science behind that. So avoidance, let me tell you what the avoidance does in your body and in your brain. The dorsal vagal complex. What is that? That's your freeze response. That's why we call it freeze response. Isn't that a hell of a lot easier than being like, ooh, I got that dorsal vagal complex. You're like, what the hell is that? It's freeze response. The freeze response is where you're just like, I don't know what to do here. Now your body shuts down, and that's avoiding that emotional overload. You ever say to yourself, let's think of sensory. I know for me, and it comes and goes, and I think this is my ADHD too. If I'm sitting, let's say I'm at a restaurant, you know, and again, it's selective. It isn't always this way. But let's say, oh my God, and a baby crying will do it every single time. A baby crying or whining, like there's a certain pitch that goes directly through my body. Like I can feel it. And I have to feel it, because if not, it actually turns into a level of anger, like internal activation. But if I have that, and then there's dishes being washed, and then these people over at this table are talking, and this person's over here talking, there's an overload that comes into my body, into my mind. So that's where I have learned over a period of time not to run from it and not to avoid it. I've learned how to process it. So what I do is I focus not the baby crying, but I focus on something else. Am I focused on the words that are coming out of this person's mouth? Am I focused on the guy at the bar washing the dishes? I solely drone in on that for a moment, and it helps me alleviate that kind of system overload. But you have to understand that is also practice. That is daily practice. That is allowing myself to be uncomfortable. That's allowing myself not to flee. I am a firm believer, firm believer in never running from your triggers. I am a firm believer in sitting in them, feeling them, and feeling them over and over and over again, because over a period of time, that starts to lose control over you. So yes, you have emotional dysregulation and depression. Of course, that's going to come with it. Why do we confuse the two? Because again, they can overlap, but they are very different. So they are very, very different. If you're like, I can't take it anymore. You're like, oh my God, well, that's emotional exhaustion. You ever say to yourself, I don't know how much more of this shit I can take. I can't take any more of this. This is where you're going into emotional exhaustion. Does it feel like you ever feel heavy? You're just like, I can't explain this. I just feel heavy. I feel like walking through quicksand, but I feel like all this weight's on my shoulders. I just feel heavy. Do you feel like loud internally? Do you have that constant chatter? And again, this can also be obsessive compulsive disorder. So again, just kind of letting you know, these things can increase these symptoms. But it just internally, you are loud. It is loud. And you're like, why is this? Why do I have all of these thoughts? Why am I doing all of these things? Well, that comes from carrying too much. You're carrying too much emotional weight. It's very, very different to be there for someone versus trying to carry their stuff. This goes back to what I was saying. If you don't allow people to figure out their emotional regulation, you're not doing them any favors. And of course, I don't mean small children. You cannot prevent, nor should you, these things. You will get drained over and over again. So when you have that emotional exhaustion, you really have to look at yourself and say, what am I allowing? We know there's trauma. We know that that's why, but ask yourself, what am I allowing? We can worry about how you're going to instill that later. But what are you allowing? Because what's going to continue is what you will allow to continue. Now, the question is, why are you allowing it? Then we focus on that. Everything else will kind of fall into place out of that, because you got to start at the front, not at the end of at the marathon, right? You know, life is a marathon, not a sprint. Emotional avoidance. That's where you feel empty. You're just like, oh my God, I got no feelings. I just feel empty. You feel quiet or frozen. You're just like, oh my God, I just can't. I'm so drained, but that means I don't want to have to get up and do things because my energy is gone, because I'm procrastinating, and procrastinating can be perfectionism. It can also come from emotional avoidance. You know, it's like, oh, I want to start Buddhism. I just want to be Zen. Well, you're not going to be Zen until you understand why Buddhism started, what Buddhism looks like, what types of Buddhism are there, what are the practices, what are the systems to it. You don't just go out and start going, and then you're fine. Because everybody wants the results. They don't want to do the work to get there. So that's going to be a lot of work. So you have to say, am I important to me? Is my peace important to me? And again, you could be battling depression. You can be battling those things. You don't have to stay there. I promise you don't have to stay there. There's a lot you're going to have to do. There's some medical intervention, possibly medication, definitely therapy, definitely coaching. You're going to need those things. You can't do it on your own. I'm just telling you, you can work through that. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take effort and consistency, but you can work definitely through it and work with it. When you are starting your emotional processing, it's not supposed to feel good, right? You could get off this podcast or anything else. You'd be like, woo, got that let them tattoo, and I got my shirt, my books, and I'm doing the things. It's all good in the beginning. It's all exciting. It's the Marie Kondo. I got this. I'm going to organize my drawers. It's amazing. Yeah, but you know what? You still have to do the emotional processing behind it. You have to accept it for what it is. You have to activate yourself to say, wow, when the moments go down, when the lights turn off, when the excitement of it and the newness of it wears off, and you can say, ooh, I know I got to do this. Okay, but are you feeling it or are you avoiding it? Because that is a big difference. If it feels like I just don't even give a shit anymore, I just don't care anymore. See, that's different than setting a boundary and being like, F that. No, this is my boundary. You're not setting a boundary out of emotion. When you say, I don't care anymore, you are done. You're avoiding processing. You're avoiding setting boundaries, and you are definitely avoiding accepting that maybe your spouse ain't for you. Maybe your adult kids aren't for you either. But are you ready for that? I promise you, on the other side of that is beautiful. The other side of all of this is beautiful, and it's accomplishing. It's accomplishing. Every step forward and 15 steps backwards is accomplishing something amazing. It really is. If I give you a Super Bowl ring today and you're like, ooh, got that Super Bowl ring, it don't mean anything. It's a cute flex for 5 minutes. You might sell it and make some money. It doesn't mean anything to you. You didn't do the work to get there. The ring itself isn't, all that is a symbol. It is all of the hard work. So when you get on the other side of that, now you have tools. Now you have the wherewithal to understand every day ain't going to be sunshine and roses. You're going to have seasons that you're going to go to that you're going to be like, what the hell? It's like I forgot everything I learned, but you didn't. But you got to be willing to do that. Now they both can look like burnout, which I also have a full podcast on burnout. Very important. But one is this crash of overextension, and the other is the escape before the connecting. Exhaustion is like drowning. So feel like, oh my God, I'm drowning. But avoidance is like floating face down. So you're not quite drowning, but you don't feel like paddling. So you're just there. They're two very different things. Now, you could be avoiding things and not even realizing it. Now, some things you avoided, you're like, yeah, I don't feel like paying bills. Of course, you know that. But common things people avoid is grieving something that's ended or already over, or ending or already over. So if you know this relationship is ending, or it's time, or it's hard for you to accept that it isn't as it is and it's going to be what it is, this is accepting and radical accepting, you're going to have to grieve the idea of what you wanted it to be, or the attachments that you have. Remember, it's like when you set a boundary, or when you set your core needs, it's not for John or Melissa specifically to them to follow. You're saying, this is what I'm going to tolerate. You're not saying, I need you to tolerate it. I mean, I need you to align with it. You can't do that. You know what you will and will not tolerate. You don't get to decide who does that. You don't. Because they're going to show you and they're going to demonstrate that. So just because you want your spouse to show up for you the way you want, they don't gotta. Because they are going to be resentful if you're trying to squish them into a round hole. This does not mean that you're round, that round hole that you know you need, that's valid. You just have to accept it might not be that specific person. That's where a lot of people get it twisted, because they're like, I just want them to... you better accept it for what it is. People are demonstrating to you the level of capacity that they have, or the desire to do that. Everybody just doesn't want to do things. Doesn't make them bad. You're also avoiding admitting that the relationship is over, or that it's not reciprocal, because then you start negotiating. Well, I mean, okay, they just had a bad day. Yep. Well, also remember, somebody having a bad day does not give them permission to dump their stuff on you. Just like you have a bad day, you don't get to come in and go off on everybody because your day was bad. And this is something that you will make excuses for a person, but the relationship might be over. You need to ask yourself right now, some of you are going to have this, and I know you will personally, I know that, is why are you resisting the acceptance that the relationship is over? Well, let me tell you, it's not just emotional. It's the fact that you're like, oh my God, now I have to figure out, are we going to sell the house? Maybe you have a business. Fuck. Okay, it's a lot of shit. Now we got to dismantle that. Are we going to sell this house? Is one of us going to buy the other out of the house? Oh God, now we have kids. Who's going to get the kids? What does that look like? What is alimony? Am I going to get alimony? Is there child support? That's a pain in the ass, isn't it? So it's easier for you to stay in the relationship. It is not. It is not. So the more you avoid those things, the worse you're going to feel. And now you are contributing to your own suffering. Of course, it's a pain in the ass. Most people aren't getting married and going, well, you know what? It's been a solid 3.5, 4 years. I think it's time to get out. No, most people aren't doing that. So of course it's going to suck. But you got to ask yourself, am I worth the effort? It's a fine, fine line between love and, they say love and hate, but let's say disdain or whatever. Fine line. You're like, oh, I love this person. Next thing you know, you're like, they are garbage. I mean, you just don't plan for that, but you also don't ignore the fact that it's there. Not that they're garbage, but that relationship isn't going to be for you. Facing how disconnected you are from your own goals. You have goals. Are you acting like getting there? And why do you want them? This is the whole concept of going to the gym to lose weight. We never do that. We never change up our eating to eat healthier to lose weight. That's the byproduct, but you're going to get healthier. So you have to say, what are my goals and are they attainable? Are they realistic? Are they attainable? And are you trying to rush them? Well, then of course you're not going to align with your goals, and you're going to feel like shit because you're going to feel like I can never carry anything out. So here you are, you're going to ignore your anger, and anger is fear, frustration, and hurt. Anger is only a describing word. It's not a true emotion. It's an assortment of those emotions. So if you're disappointed or you're numb, you say, have I articulated my needs, or do I just assume that they're supposed to figure it out? And or have I explained this one time? One time. We don't need to keep saying, well, I told you what I need. I told you what I need. One time. Once. Now, you might be reminded, let's say somebody tells you, might be like, hey, I realized I did this, my bad. Like, I'm just getting used to this. Like, communication is key here. But you got to say, am I angry, which is fear, frustration, hurt, like we discussed, about something that is or something that isn't because I want it to be different? And if you need to make a boundary that is going to disrupt someone else's comfort, you're going to resist that. That's avoidance. I'm avoiding hurting their feelings. On this journey, you will have to walk into your villain era. You will have to be willing to be called cold, be called rude, and be called selfish, because that will, not might, that will happen. Not from everybody, but it will happen. Oh, you will hear it. You will hear some form of that. Then they'll pull out the manipulation. Then they'll pull out the guilt tripping. And then they might even do a smear like, oh my God, look at this person. They feel like they're all that now, right? Because they need people on their side because they don't want to accept that it's them. So you're avoiding setting these boundaries because you don't want to deal with their stuff, which don't think that they don't know that. You ever have those people you're like, oh my God, I'd rather just, okay, shut up. I'd rather just do whatever because I don't feel like dealing with it. They got you where they want you. You're going to have to be okay with putting effort in those areas. What does this do neurologically? Well, suppressing your emotion activates that interior cingulate cortex, and that's controlling your pain. That means your pain of avoidance. Doesn't remove the discomfort, but it pushes it inside. You're not removing discomfort. Don't convince yourself somehow or another you're removing this. Oh, it's going internally. It doesn't just disappear. So regardless if you face it now or you face it later, I promise you, it's going to create emotional pain, physical fatigue, and it can even create illness. Your body keeps the score. And I believe that there's a book. Don't ask me the author. I'm not sure, but I know there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. The energy that you spend avoiding the emotion has to go somewhere. And that's why it turns to fatigue, brain fog, and even illness. I mean, it's got to go. If you avoid it today, it will show up 10 times fold later, and it might show up with a vengeance. It might come in even harder and hotter. This is why you need your micro goals. That's episode 52, possibly. I could be lying to you. I get that and the religious trauma mixed up. So they're back there together. And I think I even did a revamp. I'll do another one here at some point. You need these micro goals. Stop trying to do it all. Remember, that's emotional exhaustion. So if you take emotional exhaustion and emotional avoidance and you put them together, a lot of you are living right there. A lot of it. Now, exhaustion also feels like crying easily. You ever go, what the hell is wrong with me? Or you're snapping at everything. You're like, hey, thank you for Starbucks. Oh, I see. They gave me almond milk, not oat milk. My bad. Okay, sorry. And you're like, what the hell just happened there? You ever have those people who are just constantly, they are combative. They are snapping at you. Oh, wow, thanks. Oh, water's a little warm. Oh, my bad. Get your own water next time. I'm not going to help you anymore. You're like, holy shit, I was just telling you that the water is warm. So if you find that you're snappy or you're just shutting down completely, you are absolutely in that exhaustion. If you're feeling like you're always on, okay, showtime, and you get up and you're carrying this mask, you're going to have emotional exhaustion. If you're struggling to sleep, now again, talk to your doctor, could be other reasons. Or if you're oversleeping, which we understand can be depression, without feeling better, you know that you're in exhaustion. So let me ask you this question and think hard on this. When is the last time that you felt something all the way through without pushing it down? Especially the hard stuff. Feeling good is easy. that stuff, that feeling of anxiety, that anxiety attack, that feeling of just chaos. When's the last time you allowed it to come? I'm going to guarantee you, a lot of you fought that shit off. And until you allow it to come, it will repeat and it will build and it will fester. And then now you become the emotional vampire and now you're resentful to everybody around you. You're not judging it. You're not judging it at all. And I'm going to do something over on the bonus episode on Patreon because I do for the higher tier, I do one extra episode over there. And that's actually going to give you some tips and tools on actually feeling your feelings. But that's in the higher tier. That comes out once a month. If you like it, cool, then jump on over there and find it. But are you willing to call it burnout when it's, not are you willing? Are you calling it burnout when it's really emotional disconnection? Because they're going to look similar. That's why I want you to go back and listen to the burnout podcast. And you'll see there's tons of overlap. But when you understand which area that you are leaning towards, it's similar to in attachment theory. If you look at the avoidant attachment and the anxious attachment together, that's disorganized attachment. And you go, okay, I have a disorganized attachment. Yes, but they're not going to be 50-50. And one may glare higher than the other from time to time, but you're going to be solely geared towards one of those, even though you have a secondary. It's like a comorbidity. You got to have micro reconnection habits. That's right. Micro reconnection habits. What is that, you ask? What am I feeling? What am I feeling right now? That's it. I don't want you to fix it. I do not want you to fix it. I want you to say, what am I feeling right now? Period. And name it. I'm feeling hurt. Don't say I'm feeling angry because it's a describer. I'm feeling frustrated. Then you can take that a step forward and go, what has brought on this feeling of frustration? I don't want you to fix anything. The problem people have, it's the same reason people declutter and organize at the same time. That is not what you do. If it takes you 3 months to declutter, you do not organize the same time you declutter. And that's where people screw it up. It's where people screw it up. You can go listen to any professional organizer, talk to any professional person who does that. They will tell you, you never declutter and organize at the same time. So it's similar to that here. You also want to check in with your body daily. Where do I feel tension? I can tell you, and most people do, they clench their jaws. Like right now, as you're listening to this, just kind of like open your mouth and wiggle your jaw around. Believe it or not, you hold it, you don't realize it. Take your shoulder earrings, your shoulders, and drop them. Drop them. I know I carry a lot where all of a sudden my shoulders like start to raise because that's where I keep my tension. Are you breathing deeply or are you shallow breathing, right? You want to check in with your body. This is going to help you actually feel it. Got to replace scrolling. My God, you've got to stop scrolling social media. And you got to stop overworking. You set your timer for 5 minutes, put nothing on. Silence, 5 minutes. Let your thoughts come and go. You need to reset, right? You're constantly go, 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 go. Just a 5-minute reset. And you got to practice expressive release. That's why people do it all the time. 5 journals, my 5 journals that I have. Definitely writing. Writing is a thing. Moving your body. Move your body, walk, move your arms. Even if you're sedentary right now for medical reasons, if you can, take your arms. That's why at the gym they have that. It's almost like a bike for your arms. It doesn't have to be overdone. I don't expect you to go, run a marathon, but you want to move your body. It gets that going. Crying can do it too. You ever just have a crying release? You're like, oh my God, whoa, I didn't even know I needed that. Plus you're cleaning out your tear ducts. Healing does not mean that you feel everything all the time. It's not what it means. It does, however, mean that you're not running from your feelings anymore. Think about how powerful that is. Scary. It's allowed to be scary. It's allowed to be confusing. It's allowed to be frustrating. Healing does not mean that you feel everything all the time, but it means that you don't run from your feelings anymore. And there's that part where you're like, I want to heal. And then you're not doing the work. So you go, I'll come back. I'll come back to you, or I'll come back to therapy when I'm ready to do the work. You're copping out there. That's a cop out. It's a cop out because you didn't get there fast enough. You didn't make the changes fast enough. You think you should have had a better outcome. You wanted it to be different. You felt like it was a waste of time, but that's the consistency. If you're not willing to be consistent and get bored in the process, you can't just keep learning new things and having new tools and, I did that now. I want more. It's not going to work that way. You're going to convince yourself of that. So yeah, it's going to be going forward and going backwards. You want to aim for about 80%. You want to be at about 80%. So start there, start feeling, and understand if you're exhausted or if you're avoiding.